He's actually a nonprofit executive by day and a hip-hop MC by night. I'm going to introduce to you Ahmen. Come on out. As he comes out here, I want to fill you in a little bit. He's actually looked at different types of how social good can have an impact, not only in how music, as well, you've used music and other means, but I love your perspective. Give me a little bit about your background and how you kind of got to this place
absolutely.
today.
Well, first, I've got a gift for you.
Oh, geez.
I'm going to change your
From
format
the
a little bit
Hotel.
here. From the Thompson Hotel. Well, from me. Well, basically, spoiler alert, is a troublemaker shirt.
Oh, good.
I think this would be appropriate for you.
Absolutely.
So looking forward to seeing you rocking this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So about me.
Thank you, by the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's been an exciting journey. So I started out on a path that I think many people would consider to be very traditional. I went to college.
Corporate America, right?
Corporate America. Went to corporate America. I was in supply chain management. I was making a good amount of money. Life was good. Most people would say, stick with that. That's exactly what you need to be doing. What I realized is there's just so much more that needs to be done, I think, in our world, in our society. And I was realizing that the leadership skills I was developing at that time, there was a better place for it. I had an opportunity to go to one of the world's biggest brands to do external relations with them, or to be able to move to Teach for America and start doing marketing for them. And what I realized is that, that brand, they'll be just fine without me. They still are. They're still on shelves everywhere. But in terms of education facing children in low-income communities around the world, and specifically in the country, when it comes to Teach for America, that is an absolute imperative that we need to be able to address. So I made that pivot to be able to move to Teach for America.
I mean,
it was hard.
Because I think people talk about it, but never do it.
Right, so, absolutely. Well, what I look at now is, the many people who then talked to me at that point and said, okay, like, what exactly are you thinking, right?
Are you crazy?
Are you crazy? There's so much money that you could be making. There's so much just stability that you could have by staying in the corporate world. Why would you want to go to nonprofit? And what I explained to them was the fact that there was just so much need that was there, and there's so much potential to really be able to do some incredible things if we just channeled the right resources in that direction. What's funny is that now I think it's been about 8 years or so since I made that step. And, like you mentioned, I've got kind of by day, I'm doing this social impact nonprofit work. By night, I kind of take that voice and amplify it through hip hop. What's interesting is hearing people come to me now and say, man, I wish I can do that, but I can't.
You're like their hero, right?
Well, kind of like their hero, but it's like, how can I get there? And that's what I'm trying to be able to get to people with now through music, and even through my work, is that actually you can do that. And you're not the only one who's feeling that way. There are thousands or even millions of people who feel like, I could be making a bigger difference. I can be doing really incredible things with my life and with my potential and helping other people. They don't know quite how to get there, and I feel like they just need a little bit of disruption. Sometimes they even need just kind of like a punch in the gut to say, you know what, I can go out there and do something incredible.
It seems there's this big conversation around purpose, finding purpose. And do you think right now that colleges and others are helping individuals find the careers that they really need to be in?
No. No, not at all. Not at all. I think that in many ways, if you look at the education system, just all the systems around us, they are built, they're predicated on this idea that there is one way of doing it. You've got one path. You've got one path, and honestly, it's the path that I followed for a long time. You follow that, and many people believe that your life will be just fine, but those are the same people who look back 20 to 30 years from now and they say, wow, what happened? There's so much more that I could have done. I had this passion for art or for music, whatever it might be, and I could have done that. I should have done it, but it didn't happen. And my hope is that, through some of the music that I'm doing, through this troublemaker movement, that we can help people to be able to find their own passion, right? But then to be able to also pursue it, because, you don't need to be restricted by what those systems are telling you. And I think we can find comfort and courage in the fact that, people like me and you, other people out there, we want that disruption to happen. And sometimes it just takes one step in that direction and breaking away from that traditional path.
Let's talk about troublemaker. So how did you think about the concept and how did it get started?
Yeah, I think it kind of comes from my journey, right? It kind of comes from my journey, but then also hearing the stories from so many other people and hearing and having these conversations with people about education, about healthcare, politics, juvenile justice, these many different systems that surround us that flat out are not working. And they're just not making sense for us, right? It's not something that we can connect with and that we can be able to maximize what we can be. So hearing that, what I recognize is what we need is trouble. It's not just, all right, let's just fit into it. We need trouble, and that scares people, right? They hear that, they think, like, wait a second, trouble, like, I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want to be associated with that. But that's absolutely what we need, is we need to be able to shake it up. We have to be able to introduce, new ways of I think bringing in innovation into these different systems, or even bringing in disruption into the system. So that's what being a troublemaker is all about: is recognizing that there's some sort of an issue within a system that might be surrounding us, and being willing to take a step and say, I'm going to introduce some trouble. I'm going to do things differently.
So what are you asking people to do with the troublemaker movement right now?
So I think the first thing is, if there is something you feel like is off, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
There's somebody else who feels the same way, and I promise you that, I guarantee you that, but you just might have to be the first one to take that step. And I think what's important is, recognizing that, having that courage, and then deciding to do something about it. Being willing to be the first person at your university, let's say, to introduce some sort of a new music program, for example, or being in your school and introducing a new civil rights program, or employee engagement at your company. There's so many different ways you can introduce these new ways of doing things. And then you have to share the story. I think that's absolutely important. This hashtag troublemaker, I want people to use that. I want them to share their story. I want to hear that and then be able to share it with the world, because that's what will help people to build courage. That's what will help people to do new types of music, to shake up education, and then everything else that's around us.
All the stuff that you and I have talked about, I have read about you, all of these, it seems like it's just getting up and going and doing it. I mean, what's preventing most of us?
I think there's a fear.
Yeah.
There's an absolute fear, I think, in a lot of different ways. One is, okay, what might happen to me? Right, like what might happen if I decide to take that step? Am I going to lose this really comfortable path that I have in front of me? Are people going to be thinking, what's wrong with me? And also, might I fail? So I think, and those are fears that come through my mind all the time, to tell you the truth. Even now, even years after switching from corporate to nonprofit, going down this hip hop path, I can't tell you the number of times that employers have rejected me. That people have said, you know what, you want to perform in this show? Too bad.
Yeah.
But then what really emboldens me is then when I'm able to step into those opportunities. So when I'm able to hit the stage in New York, for example, and do a show, and I have people coming up to me afterwards, and they're saying, you know what, like, not only was I feeling your show, but, that was different. Like, that's the type of hip hop we need to be hearing. And that message of being a troublemaker, that makes sense for me, because I've been thinking about creating this business, but you know what, now I'm actually going to go and do it. And these are the types of stories I've started hearing from people. They want to start their own businesses. They want to start their own initiatives. They want to find ways to shake things up too. And they needed to hear that from someone. So I think people can find that. If you take that first step and start to move past that fear, you'll have people who will start to come to you and say, yeah, you know what, like, you're right. Like, there is something wrong here, and I'm with you on that.
Good. Thanks for this.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. I'll look forward to seeing you all
Right
throughout
on.
the conference. Thanks, Ahmen.